Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. In a few moments, Thoughtspeak will begin its broadcast. This is a dramatization, and in the midst of the horror and chaos, you will notice that we cannot interrupt for a commercial. For those of you that have heard the show in the past, you will find very little changed. And if you intend to stay with us for the next hour and a half, all these things are done to let you pull in the reins of your imagination. Incredible? You're absolutely right, it is incredible. And you are about to hear the results.
Welcome to Thoughtspeak, a podcast dedicated to the discussion of K. Applegate's 1996 book series, Animorphs. I'm your host, Coleman.
And I'm your superior host, Mitchell.
Superior co-host.
Exactly.
Mitchell.
I'm the superior one. The one with the voice you either love or hate, according to some of our reviewers.
According to either our reviews or our personal emails.
What can I say? It's unique.
Either way, we're making waves. We're causing emotions.
Are we?
You can say for a lot of things. Yeah, I think we are. I think we're doing something.
Okay, well, you know what? It's good to be back. I will say that.
It is. Some of you have been listening, and at this point, possibly watching us talk about our lives and the last private Thoughtspeak, and
listening, watching,
you caught up
reading.
to the last episode. The Threat, which left off on a huge cliffhanger.
Yes, exactly. I mean, the book we're about to review tonight is part of a trilogy, so if you haven't listened to the first two, maybe go back and do that if you care. I don't know. It's up to you. Whatever.
You know what? Even if you don't care, we'd appreciate if you went back and listened to our entire catalog of episodes and then start this one.
Exactly. Don't come in on episode whatever this is. This is a weird one. Why would you do that?
Yeah, go back. So we cannot stress enough. Even though we talked up the David trilogy and we talked about how excited we were to review the episodes, obviously, if you listen to Private Thoughtspeak number 8, which we just released as well.
Exactly. Yeah, listen to that first because that clears up a lot of the issues, and we spend a good deal of time talking about them there.
Yeah, and we still are really excited about this book, and especially after just reading it again for probably the first time in 10 years or more, it holds up.
Oh yeah, it's been a long time for me as well. And yeah, it was every bit as good as I remember it to be.
And the way the last one ends is just, it's incredible how well this works as a trilogy. It really was, the last one really was like the two towers of the David trilogy.
Yeah, basically.
Except instead of Middle Earth, you got, the suburban West Coast town as the setting.
Yeah, do you want to jump right into it?
I think we should. Well, I think we should talk about the cover.
Exactly.
We should jump into that.
First things first. I mean, at the time these things are released, we're sitting here waiting for the next book to come out. And so far we've got, Marco as a cobra, which was really cool at the time. And then we had Jake as a dog, which was like, okay, well, that's not that great. But I don't think anybody expected to see Rachel going rat on the cover of the exciting conclusion to the David trilogy here.
I disagree with you that Jake as a dog on the last cover was a good fit. I mean, I think you're right in that started out with Marco and as a snake, and that was interesting. It was kind of a different kind of style of cover. It was a little darker. And then you went into the second one, and especially this third one, and they're relevant to the plot. I'm not going to say they're not that, but for what they're doing on the inside and how different that is from the rest of the series, I'm surprised they didn't try to do anything like the Megamorph styling or something different with the covers.
Yeah, I almost kind of feel that same way, but I guess that would have broken the continuity here with the covers. By the way, while we're on the topic of the covers, there was a pretty interesting article that was linked to us at Thoughtspeak on the Facebook page, as well as I saw it bouncing around on several sources on Facebook, but there was an interview with the actual cover artist. Did you happen to read that?
No, I didn't.
Oh, well, I did. It was pretty interesting. I mean, we constantly are making fun of the cover art, and whoever came up with it, we thought it was some kind of, corporate team. But apparently, it's just a guy, and I guess he doesn't really read the books, or he didn't until they came out much later You read them later in the...
So, did he go into his experience and how many months of training he had on MS Paint to get through this and to do the job?
Yeah, basically, yeah. Yeah, a lot of it was about, the technicalities of achieving this morph effect, which was big technology back then in the 90s that they weren't quite doing properly. And actually, I think he said the first 3 books in the series are done by a different artist.
Oh, that kind of makes sense.
You can tell they used like a more animated kind of morph effect.
Well, for the first 2, I think that's the case. For Tobias, I think they actually hit their stride a little bit, and it looked pretty good. And then they switched over to this guy, this Wonderkin.
I shouldn't say he or man too much. It could have been a woman. I can't recall quite. Interesting article. Go check it out if you're interested. Maybe we'll link to it. Maybe not.
I read some articles myself, and if you listen to the Private Thought Speak, I'm kind of gearing up into the industry, the writing industry of literature, and a lot of things I've read are just, if you have the head for it and you actually get published, you have to just take it in the face as far as your book cover, your artwork, how the book's going to be marketed. It's rough.
Oh yeah, of course, you lose say over it, and that's...
Not only do you lose say, but 90% of the time you won't be happy with how your book is marketed.
Right, yeah. And well, that's one of the big advantages of just publishing yourself, independently online. Kind of the way I'm doing it.
That's true. So anyway, let's get back in the book. But on the inside cover, so you got the standard clouds with, it looks like he gave Morphine Rachel a little bit like a 50% outer glow. So I think that was really the creative push on the cover.
Yeah, right. The soft stroke around her, you mean?
Yeah.
Right. Coincidentally, Rachel that's in the the second panel of her morphing, dated a girl that looked like that once.
Just the second stage?
Well, I also dated one that looked like the third stage, but it was over pretty quick.
How was she, 80?
She was part rat.
Anyway, so you go to the inside cover, and that's one of the most relevant inside covers we've seen so far, probably.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome, actually. Well done on this one.
Oh, it's a iconic location too. It's the construction site. It's like our first actual view of it.
Yeah. With
Scholastic. Yeah.
Can you actually see the roaches in the bottle? I wonder. Not really.
Hold on, I'm looking.
Not really.
Yeah, I don't see anything. Shame on you, whatever your name was, maker of this.
Pretty awesome, though. Yeah, so that is the cover for number 22, The Solution.
Yeah, sorry, I was distracted there for a second. I was flipping through the morph at the bottom corner of the page. I don't think we've ever talked about that on the podcast.
The morph at the...
That was a pretty iconic part.
I think we mentioned them at the beginning of the first episode, maybe, but there's really no reason to discuss them. They're just the same things that appear on the cover.
Yeah,
Rachel to Rat. We talked about them. We talked about them in the Andalite Chronicles one because that was really unique.
That's true. Because it told a little story,
and very soon we're going to be reading the Hork-Bajir Chronicles, which has another kind of story-ish one.
That's exciting. That's actually a book I've never read.
Yeah, me too. So,
wow,
and it's coming up. It's coming up soon.
Do you know when? Is it after
I think it's after The Pretender.
Wow.
I'm not 100% sure at this time, but...
The Pretender really gives away the plot of that book.
You're kidding. Yeah, thanks a lot, Applegate. Do you recall, good friend, who reads the back?
I'm going to read it. I feel like you've done the last 7 just because we keep forgetting.
We're going to go back and re-listen to all these one day, and it's going to be like, you read all of them.
No, I'm going to be like, oh, no, I think I did it last time. It's your turn. And like from book 2 through 20, you read all of them.
I don't feel that way, but
anyway,
knock yourself out.
I got this. We can't tell you who we are. Oh, sorry. That's not...
We don't even start there. Oh, you know what? Now that I think about it.
Joke.
Oh, okay. Well, the last time, I think we both did it. Remember? We traded off.
Oh, yeah.
That was dumb.
Anyway, so I'm going to... Okay, I got this. David, the newest Animorph, is not what he appears. His need to control the other Animorphs and acts is all he thinks about, and the things he does are starting to break up the group. That's not accurate.
Yeah, I know that. I felt like that was briefly the plot of in the second one for a little bit there, but okay, whatever.
Not even close.
Well, no, you know what? Yeah, it is accurate. Okay, I mean, he killed Tobias, and he killed.
Well, yeah,
Jake.
but it makes it sound like he's like causing drama.
Oh yeah, I know. Like he's like, hey Rachel,
love triangle or something.
Marco said you're fat.
That would have actually destructed the Animorphs if they would have had someone doing that. Anyway, so second paragraph. Rachel and the others know that time is running out. The newest battle against the Yeerks is the most important one yet. And it's not the one that will wait. Whoa. It's not one that will wait. Winning the fight could mean slowing down the invasion. But no one knows what to do with David, because the newest Animorph is more than just a little problem. He's deadly. Part 3 of trilogy.
Oh, so badass. Yep.
Yeah. So yeah, we get here to the third part of this trilogy, as we said, and
it comes
love
to
how the last one ended. I think we gushed and gushed on the last episode about that ending, and I love where it picks up right here too.
Yeah, it picks up
Perfect.
essentially right after that last book with Rachel being woken up.
Oh, and I love how a small line in the last book is basically the main drive of this entire book. If you remember, when Jake thought that Tobias was dead and he was following David to the mall, Axe was with him, and he turned to Axe, and as much as a flying
bird
eagle
can.
a mile away from him, yeah, he turned to Axe and he said, get Rachel, and he made a point of saying get Rachel, and
yeah, because he said get Rachel.
well, I mean, he made a point of saying that they need firepower and they need someone who can do what needs to be done.
And Rachel showed up with a gun.
Well, that's not what I was expecting. But that really is, I love that one line became like this huge emotional and psyche draw of Rachel's motivations in this book and what she's worrying about. It's
yeah,
cool.
That is great that, they saw that as an opportunity for character development, and they, by golly, gave it to her.
Yeah, and I think up to this point, I mean, we've been making the joke ourselves that Rachel's just a loose cannon. She's like the Clint Eastwood of the group. But having a book where she not only reflects on that, but like fights against it, that's pushing the boundaries of what Scholastic was probably asking for. Okay, you're starting to write a real book series here, and you need to calm down.
These things are supposed to be for children. What are we doing here, Applegate?
We see on page 32 that it says her kneecap jutted out of her skin, and she was dying of blood loss. We're publishing right next to Hardy Boys, and we need you to calm the F down.
Yeah, I love this opening scene because this is Rachel and Axe kind of working together here to track David. Axe kind of informs her offhandedly that, situation's bad. Tobias is probably dead, or at least Jake thinks he's dead. And they go straight to the mall. And it doesn't take long for David to kind of come out of hiding and confront Rachel a bit.
It's great when they get in there, though, because Rachel's like, she asks if he's ready, and they go in stealth mode. And she's really wary about moving around. And I think in the last book, we got a sense that David is a little clever. Like, he's not as smart as he makes himself out to be, but they are worried about these things he's doing, and he usually catches up to them. Like, it's not just like they're worried about him being smarter than he is, and he's like off doing his own thing. He's actually setting traps for them, and this is the first time here in the mall, and it's a pretty spooky little scene.
Oh yeah, David is like Michael Myers, and he just keeps coming back for him like throughout this book. and
Yeah.
This is cool because like Rachel has to kind of take control a little bit, and she even gives Axe some orders and mentions how she felt weird about doing it, but.
Yeah, that was a cool little touch, and I love human Rachel going up against David the Lion, and her little gymnastics routine, which, to be fair, is like just as silly as the Ian Malcolm's daughter in Jurassic Park 2, like doing gymnastics on the Velociraptor.
Yeah.
Except this, because we're in her head, it seems like really tense, and she does use gymnastics, but she really thinks she's going to die like the entire time she's just doing it. It's really, really good little scene.
Yeah, no, I thoroughly enjoyed it. David, of course, after their little struggle, he winds up escaping, as villains tend to do. And you have Axe come back for a little regrouping, and they find Jake, and he is in Tiger Morph and not doing well, obviously.
He got his throat ripped out, basically, or at least pretty badly hurt. So he's bleeding out there on the floor, and instead of trying to wake him up or trying to help him themselves, they figure that there's a good shot, and this is maybe a little coincidental.
Maybe a little coincidental.
But they figure that Cassie's mom will be the closest one, and she'll be a first responder. And luckily, they don't just completely rely on that. Once the police are called and ambulance comes, actual paramedics do some work on the tiger, which I thought that was kind of cool, and probably save his life. And then Cassie's mom comes and does the rest. Yeah,
it's a kind of a shame that Jake wasn't able to just stay conscious and demorph right then and there, because this does kind of make for a weird little part coming up that I think is kind of risky for Animorphs' behavior, but
it loses its tension a little bit in the sense that this was just easy to get out of. They had a fix for it. It's Cassie's mom. You're all good. I would have liked a scene where Cassie was close enough that once they found Jake and they knew David was gone, they could have gotten Cassie in there, and a scene where Cassie, she can mend a raccoon's leg or something, but having to save Jake and sew up his throat or something with no experience, that would have been a really good scene.
That would have been pretty cool, but no, as it is, Cassie and her family managed to take Jake in and care for him, and obviously Jake doesn't die. But this gives Rachel and Axe time to go check in on Marco just to make sure he's doing all right and let him know, what's going on with David being an asshole. And they fly to his house, and everything seems cool for a sec. They see him there standing in the window, beckoning them to come in. And as soon as Axe flies through the window, Marco hits him with a baseball bat. And they figure out, oh, crap, we've been had again.
I mean, this is how the whole book goes. It doesn't calm down.
We got
after the other. Yeah, and the fact that they're oh, we're not going to run into another trap again, and it's really exciting.
Basically, like you said, it doesn't slow down because you're not expecting David to come back so quickly immediately. I mean, they just left the mall, and then they're dealing with David again at Marco's house. He goes into his golden eagle morph and comes after Rachel, who's in her owl morph at the time. And he almost, is going to F her up pretty bad here. She could probably die. But at the very last moment, she gets saved by a familiar face, someone we all thought was dead, of course, right? You thought he was dead.
Yeah, everybody thought he was dead. And this is exciting because, it plays a trick on... I don't understand. So the rest of the book, they kind of play off the fact that David doesn't know how many Animorphs actually were alive.
Yeah.
But he's attacked by red-tailed hawk here. Does that not give it away?
Yeah, I don't know what he's thinking. Because he knows that... Well, I mean, I guess he could think it's Cassie or Axe, I suppose.
I guess maybe he doesn't know their bird morphs well enough. I just thought that was a little bit of a... Or maybe he didn't really see what hit him.
Yeah, I know. I mean, he gets hit by Tobias, and then the scene ends pretty quick there. I mean, he just kind of flies away.
I thought it was pretty crazy that...
He's got Visor 3 syndrome.
Yeah, the whole little plan here was to lure him into power lines. So Rachel's already ready to do away with him. Kill him.
Oh, yeah. She's a warrior, man.
Yeah, but I mean, with her main struggle with this book, I mean, she kind of confirms her own worst fears.
Yep, that's the ride we're in for with Rachel.
Mm-hmm. So I love this. Really, the next day at school, they're trying to regroup. They don't care about security. They're all sitting together because they're just so tired. I mean, if you think about it, the David trilogy's happened over less than a week's time.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And none of them are getting any sleep, especially Rachel. And they're in the cafeteria hanging out, and Marco walks up and sits down and is completely wrong. They notice right away. He says a few words, and they know it's David. And also the fact that Marco's in line to get like enchiladas.
Yeah, Marco's already in the lunch line.
Yeah.
They're very David's he's an a-hole, man. He's got their morphs. It's a good thing he didn't end up with a Rachel morph at any point, you know.
Do you think when he was in Marco Morph, he had like bad jokes coming up in his mind all the time? And he had to just like fight them down like
I don't know. That's another thing. Like, do you think the Rachel morph really gives you the shopping and stuff?
I think I would probably be more stylish if I looked like Rachel.
Probably. I
That's a whole can of worms we're not going to open here on Thoughtspeak.
No, not yet. We'll open them with my therapist later.
So he threatens them. He has his little demands for what he wants from them, and he jaunters off all.
Well, of course, he wants the blue
happy.
box, though. Let's talk about his plan here. He definitely wants the blue box, and everyone kind of makes the assumption that he wants to trade it to Visor 3 to get his parents, back. But he kind of gets angry about it and acts like that wasn't his plan.
Mm-hmm.
But his real plan, I guess, is to, make his own Animorph team that will bend to his will, I guess. Like, I don't know. He wants some cronies of his own.
Yeah, I think maybe he's gotten a taste for this life of like breaking into hotels and doing whatever he wants. So he might not even want his parents back at this point.
Possibly. Who knows? Especially with something like an alien invasion, going on. He seems like the kind of guy who would be doing something like that.
Yeah. So he saunters off or whatever, and Rachel goes after him, and it's a point of anger for her later, the fact that Jake lets her go, and audibly says that.
This is another big thing that sticks on her mind throughout this book, is Jake letting her go here after David, and she gets a little into this whole threatening him and giving into her anger. She gives into the dark side here.
She does. Very relevant with the
exactly. We are recording this on December 16th.
In one of the many dark scenes of this book, Rachel takes a cafeteria fork, presses it into David's ear, and threatens to kill his parents.
Yeah, exactly.
So, what's the age range on the back of these books?
I don't know, but having your main character threaten to kill, this guy's uninvolved parents is it's pretty heavy stuff.
It is, and David has officially gone past the point of being a dick and into a psychopath. He is killing them one by one in his mind. So I'm not going to say that,
But only when they're in morph, because he doesn't kill humans.
His excuses is...
His excuses are as ridiculous as Scholastic's.
It just doesn't make a lot of sense. Like, if there was a sentient red-tailed hawk out there, I'd feel just bad at killing it as a human.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Exactly. They're basically just in a crappy situation again, and Rachel goes home.
Oh, the Animorphs gonna get out of this one.
Yeah, I know. How are they gonna wrap this up in 36 pages? Rachel goes home, and there's a little bit of some home life moments here with her and her sister. Always good stuff, I guess.
Yeah, more Rachel's home life. That's what I thought the series needed more of.
You know what? I want to see more of her dad. What's he doing? Mr. Big Shot lawyer out in New York or wherever he is.
I hope he sends her a dramatic letter asking to live with him again.
I hope he comes back for a book and he winds up going to Atlantis with them.
I can only hope he's a part of that book.
So chilling out, home life. More information about Cousin Sadler. He ain't doing too well, apparently.
Yeah, they say he's gonna possibly die any day now.
Right, and it's kind of shaking up her little sister. But it don't matter, because she gets a call from Jake saying that mission is on.
Yeah, and I think we can go through this pretty quickly.
Oh my god, yeah, because this is a great mission.
The main plot point, and don't get me wrong, I'm going to sound really sarcastic here, but I absolutely love this part. I love this solve, the way they fix this problem.
Oh yeah, set it up from the last book, though.
Mm-hmm. So the main plot of the pretty much the last two books was that their biggest mission yet, 5 of the world's most powerful leaders were all meeting for a summit at a huge hotel on the beachfront of their town.
Yep.
And the Yeerks had a plan to
hologramception.
What?
Hologramception.
Yeah, they had
capture the Andalite bandits and the world leaders and turn them into Yeerks.
Yeah, have everybody have their cake and eat it too, all at once. And this was huge. Eric came to them with this mission, and they don't take that lightly at all. And obviously, it would be a huge win for the Yeerks.
It's a bad idea to bring David with them.
Yeah, it's a huge plot of the last 2 books. This one, they're like, well, we got to deal with this David stuff, so we're going to regulate this to 1 chapter.
Well, it wasn't quite one. They traveled there, and it was a couple of chapters. They had to go from bird to dolphin to get to the beach. And then this was awesome, dude. I am calling this everybody goes chaos morphs, because everyone has acquired new morphs, and we get people in elephant and rhino, primarily. Marco got the same rhino that Jake had, and everybody else gets the same elephant that Rachel has. And yeah, that's the point, man. Cause chaos. Yeah. They just go in and mess stuff up.
I like how they also pick these morphs because they can take a few bullets. So that's exactly what they do. They're getting hit left and right.
Oh yeah,
with handgun fire.
I know there are points in this where they mention, like, she's like, I got shot in the head, but I was still going. Starting to feel a little woozy, but I'm still going.
Yeah.
This is really dramatic stuff.
And I don't know if it would. I think it would end the summit because of just, no one knowing what's going on. I think it would work, but there's no reason why they couldn't have the summit somewhere else and the Yeerks couldn't do this exact same thing. I guess except for the fact that their home base is kind of in this town, so it's easier to pull off.
Yeah, I don't know. We are told that, the summit's canceled, and that's all we need to know, because we've got bigger problems to deal with.
Yeah, after they do this whole crazy plan, they get back in the ocean, and it's storming the entire time.
Yeah, and that's kind of what makes it so cool if you think about it. Is there's I'm imagining a huge hurricane level storm going on, and then just out of nowhere, elephants and rhinos appear and start messing things up. I think it's pretty realistic to imagine that this event would be canceled for sure.
Yeah, well, the whole thing would be really cinematic if it was ever translated to the screen. But
oh, sure.
Anyway, so they get back in the ocean, and they're dolphins, and probably not feeling great about how the mission went, but it was success, so, it's a win. Can't go wrong with that. And suddenly they're confronted by something large moving quickly towards them. And I guess you might worry it's like Visitor 3 and another crazy morph, but nope, it's David in their morph's worst enemies morph.
Their morph's worst enemy is morph. Wow. Yeah, it's a mouthful, but you said it right. Yeah, it is David. What's funny, though, is Visitor 3 is he's got that tiny bit part in this, maybe a paragraph when they're busting things up, and he's in his Visitoni morph.
Yeah, and he's all angry, yelling at them on the beach. Does Rachel, throw him to the side or something? Did anything happen with that?
Nothing significant.
Seems like you could have taken out Visitor 3.
No, they talked to him a little bit. They're like, Try to have a banquet now, Visa.
I assume she said it in that type of voice.
Probably. Gotta mask it, Yeah.
So anyway, as dolphins, they get attacked by David as in Killer Whale Morph. And they fight him a little bit. They're doing okay, but they can't hold up for a long time. He's way faster and just insane. And because of their numbers and David thinking one of them is dead, Cassie's able to kind of sneak off a little bit and morph and remorph into a humpback whale, which is callback from oh my god, it was definitely in Megamorphs #1 for sure. Oh, not Megamorphs #1. It was it was it? She definitely morphed it in to kill the. Oh my god, and I forgot the name of the flying dust monster too. But she didn't get the morph then. No, she got it back in book number 3, right? No, 4, where they get axed. No, she didn't get the... No, she didn't acquire it. I think she did acquire it in the... Man, we're terrible Animorphs Podcast. No, you know what? When we take month breaks, this is going to happen. Look, it was one of those
forget
early
about that.
books,
This is an excellent callback. Cassie morphs humpback whale, and even though they're non-aggressive animals for the most part, it's enough to scare David off.
Oh, it was in book number whatever, The Humpback. I can't believe we forgot that one.
The humpbackening.
Exactly.
So yeah, that ends our mission. Rachel, like, everybody just goes home and they're glad to be done with it. And Rachel's like, I'm skipping school today. Screw this.
Yeah. Completely done. And she's running on absolutely no sleep. Literally this time.
Yeah, great timing for her sister to come back once again. And of course, she's having a huge, hard time dealing with Cousin Sadler and his failing health and his inevitable death. And after this conversation with her sister again, David just comes back. He keeps coming. Just when you think you're done with him, he keeps coming.
Can't get rid of him.
They gave him a lot of quote unquote screen time in this book. That's for sure. Really did an excellent job for him not even being one of the main characters. Really sets him up, as this menace, I would say.
Yeah, he's diabolical in the sense that you can't talk him down, and he's not like the classic villain where you can't talk him down because he's unreasonable. He's so lost in this little fantasy that he's better than them, and that they were out to get him, and that his whole life was ruined by them, and that he's luckily smarter and a better Animorph than all. It's crazy in the worst possible way, because there's no bringing him back. There's no getting rid of him.
Yeah, it's really unfortunate, but I mean, he went down this path himself, for the most part. I mean, they were a little standoffish in the beginning, but...
They could have handled some things better, but the fact of the matter is, at the point where they met him, he was possibly similar to how they were.
Well, yeah, just like them.
Yeah, and they were adults at this point. I mean, they've got the mindset of people who fight in a war every day. So they're not going to be able to relate to this kid. They're going to be harsh with him. It really wasn't completely their fault.
And that is absolutely why I think the best thing they could have done is not taken him on that first mission.
No.
Giving him more time, giving him more training, giving him proper knowledge of really what's going on. Make him realize, like, dude, your parents in the grand scheme of things don't matter at all. Not even a little bit.
Well, giving him time to get over the trauma of losing his parents and the fact that aliens are real. Maybe some time removed from that would have helped too.
Right, because at least most of the characters needed at least one book to really join the fight officially. I mean, Cassie's fucking quit the fight at least 3 times.
Yeah, they keep bringing her back.
Exactly. David comes back again to taunt her. This time in her bathroom. The creep. The lucky creep. I
mean, I can't believe they got away with that sentence at the end where he was just like, okay, yeah, you can totally go take your shower now.
Oh, yeah.
I'm going to leave.
Go right ahead. Yeah, so she obviously says she waits 2 hours and then heads straight to Jake.
Yeah, a really creepy scene. Because he's obviously kind of obsessed with her at this point, too.
Oh, totally. She goes right to Jake's house to kind of tell him about David and flip out on him and sort of have this whole confrontation. Because, again, she's still got all of these turbulent feelings about Jake and the way that he's been using her as of late. Yeah.
And while she's there, they hear some bad news about Sadler, their cousin, and her Jake's dad is there, and he invites her to come with them to the hospital.
Yeah, she gets roped into it.
Mm-hmm. So they get there, and it's chaos all around. Nurses flying everywhere, doctors, all the family members who are related to Cousin Sadler are there, and they're all like crazy excited and really pumped, and Jake and Rachel are just coming into this, and big surprise.
Oh, it's a miracle. Cousin Sadler has made a full recovery, basically.
Yeah, and I like how Rachel doesn't pick up at it first. She's like, oh, that's cool. That's good. And Jake just has this like extremely angry look on his face. Yeah,
Jake is immediately, he's quick to figure it out. Of course, they do make it pretty obvious when they're like, oh yeah, we had him in the elevator and there was a little power outage and then the power came back. The nurse and doctor
got knocked out somehow?
Yeah, the nurse and doctor were knocked out. they do make it pretty obvious right away. And, Rachel and Jake are none too happy about the fact that their cousin has just been, who knows, I guess murdered, straight up murdered by David.
Yeah, well, they said he was on the way to the ER because his heart stopped. And I think that's maybe Applegate's way of being like softening the blow a little bit of what he did.
Yeah, but it also has to, he's
anyway.
got to be alive enough in order for David to acquire him, though, because you can't acquire
Think
from
of how
dead.
dark that scene was if it was written into the book. So the elevator's going down. Doctor and nurse are with this kid in a hospital bed. All his machine alarms are going off because his heart stopped, and they're just trying to get him to surgery so they can save his life. Power goes out. What do you think? A lion comes from the ceiling or something?
I don't.
What
Yeah,
do you even use for this?
I have no idea. Probably like rattlesnake or something. No,
maybe. No, they would have killed him. But anyway, they get knocked out, and he
comes in killer whale morph. Slides through the elevator opening in killer whale morph.
But no. So he knocks him out. And he acquires Cousin Sadler as he's dying because he hasn't gotten surgery yet, and then lifts the body, puts it up into the elevator shaft, and leaves it there.
Yeah, it's a complicated.
So at some point in that period,
wow.
he's either dying, about to die, or is dead as David's moving him.
Oh, I'm sure that Cousin Sadler, poor Cousin Sadler, died shortly after, he was placed up on top of the elevator there. Probably, minutes.
And this is like a 10-year-old kid, because he's a few years younger than his cousins. So, I mean, this is the depths of the depths that the series has.
I'm surprised they got away with this.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. So it's just insane. And it makes sense, David's whole plan to, morph into it. I don't know if his plan was actually to stay with the family, because it doesn't really make sense to do that in the long run, because your morph can't age.
Yeah, that's a good point. And I don't think his intention was to ever stay with the family, at least not for the long term. He mentions, it'll be nice to have a place to stay for a while and blah, blah, blah. But No, it seemed like his plan was always to establish his own team of morph-capable people. Because when they talk to him in the hospital, again, he demands the blue box, of course, because he wants it. And I think this is when he finally lays out his plan, you guys have it all wrong. I would get people that are dumber than me, and I'll give them the power and make them do stuff for me. So He thinks he's going to be a full-on supervillain here.
Yep, or a superhero in his mind, but either way, it's supervillain.
I don't know, man. He knows he's going to be robbing stuff and robbing people.
But this is the straw that breaks the camel's back. This is too much for Jake and Rachel to handle. They decide that it's time to do away with David and not fool around anymore.
Yeah, and I mean, we get a great little accumulation, I guess, of all of Rachel's feelings that she takes out on Jake here, and they have a nice little talk, and through the power of friendship, things are set to, I guess, neutral for the moment. I mean, I didn't feel like it was very
resolved.
Yeah. It's still kind of like, Rachel, that's kind of who you are, buddy. And I need it. I really need it.
I think if you look at this scene, and I'm going to jump way into spoilers here. If you're reading along with the series and you don't want the last book spoiled, take off your headphones right now.
Yeah, really? Okay.
Yeah, I need
super
to go there.
Spoiler then.
Yeah, incredible, huge spoiler. So take a look at this scene where Rachel's fears and anger and everything towards Jake versus one of the last scenes in the last book, where Jake tells Rachel to go on not a crazy suicide mission like we've seen before, but an actual suicide mission where she's going to die at the end of it, and she says yes, no question. It's her accepting what she's so worried about in this book. That, having Jake be her leader and, give her commands, she struggles with that the entire series. And then B, struggling with the fact that she is kind of a cold-blooded killer, and she's made for this war. And if you look into her character arc is not getting better from that and becoming a normal person. It's her accepting that and dying in war. So that's a pretty crazy character arc.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good thing you brought that up, I guess. I mean, even at the end of all of this, at the very end, on the last page of this book, she admits the thrill of this whole challenge and this enemy was it was pretty exciting. She admits she kind of likes it. So obviously, oh my God, let's just get into this awesome ending. So they're like, you know what, David, it's time for him to go. We gotta ice him. It's been too long.
And this is one of my favorite things that a book can do is lie to me.
Oh yeah, it fools the reader, and that's great. Mm-hmm.
It's great, yeah, absolutely. So they have a meeting, and it's very, if you're reading Animorphs at this point, and since we're not in the ghostwritten books yet, to have the Animorphs speak in a voice that is very different from the one you know, being in all these books so far, that's what this next scene is. Marco, Rachel, Jake, all of them are acting and talking very off character, and it's on purpose. It clues you in that something's wrong, but it's because they know David could be listening to every single conversation they have, and they're banking on it this time.
Yeah, they specifically let some information drop that they want him to hear, because this is a decoy conversation, a decoy meeting for David to be set up, basically. They play him like a fiddle. They
do, and they're very good at it. Scarily good at it.
Yeah. But they talk about how they need to go about collecting the pieces of the blue box, because apparently it deconstructs, which is kind of cool to know.
And they specifically, well, we don't know if it actually does, but they say it does in this scene.
Yeah, and I don't have any reason to doubt that.
No, I do doubt it. I think they made that up so that they could make this plan work. I don't think the blue box actually deconstructs.
Oh, okay. Well, we'll see in an upcoming book.
Yeah, maybe, I don't know. But anyway, so they make note of what you just said, and then another important part is that they say that both Rachel and Cassie were the ones to help hide it.
Yeah.
Hide the pieces.
Oh, yeah. They make it clear that Rachel also knows where the pieces are.
Mm-hmm. So they schedule a meeting with David at your local fine dining Taco Bell.
Of course.
Mm-hmm. It's a busy place where none of them are going to go lion morph and kill the other ones.
Hopefully not.
So,
although David's pretty wild.
I want to read that book.
The Taco Bell ending.
The Taco Bell encounter.
David rolls up into TB and pulls up in the booth next to Rachel and human Axe and tells Axe to beat it like a nerd. Get out of here, nerd. You're not wanted.
It's great because he's just playing into everything they said, and he's acting like he's already got a beat. He's acting like they've accepted that he's much smarter than them, because that's what they made sure they said during the meeting.
This point, he thinks he's won, and he's basically gloating and saying, I outsmarted you guys, I got you, there is nothing you can do.
Yeah, he even goes as far as to say, like, man, I mean, things could have worked out if you guys weren't so dumb and knew how to use your powers right.
Oh, they make a huge hammy show, I thought, in this meeting, especially Rachel, where, David's smearing some food on her and she starts to cry. And this you could tell is a little bit more acted.
Yeah, it's a little bit tough.
But they essentially want to just inflate his ego further and make him really believe that he has the upper hand on them when he does not.
So, and we, as the audience, still don't 100% know what's going on yet.
Oh, no, I admit, the first time I read this book, especially in coming up here, they go to the construction site, of all places, because this is where they've chosen to hide the box in this scenario they've cooked up. And they've got some morph shuffling to do, which they get into. And when you're a first-time reader, and the rest of the team goes roach morphs, and David stuffs them into a Pepsi bottle nearby, you do start to worry a little for their safety.
Yeah, and I thought this was, obviously it was part of their plan, but this is the one part where David actually shows that he's a little clever in the way that he makes them demorph, remorph, and what he is morphing into the whole time. And like he does cover his bases. As far as the Animorphs he thinks are alive, he does protect himself pretty well here.
Oh, totally. He goes rattlesnake, and Rachel's a rat, obviously. So he's got them there. He's just, it really seems like he has them for the most part. But he goes rat along with Rachel, and they've got some pipe work, some places that are only accessible by rat. And they go in and they find a couple of pieces, and there's some tension involved, obviously. Rachel and David love taking shots at each other.
He's talking the whole time. And Rachel's being a little more assertive here, but not enough to blow her cover. But she's obviously just hates the kid.
Well, yeah, and he's really, really just building himself up to be such a D-bag.
He even, at one point, kind of offers her the chance to come with him, doesn't he?
Yeah,
like
I think he's been creepily hitting on her subtly this whole time, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Like, you could have been with me, babe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're just two rats in a pipe, and you know what that means. You know what that's a euphemism for.
Despite all my rage, I am still just a rat in a cage.
Wow, that's some good song lyrics you just busted out.
I know. Hey, I came from the 90s, man.
So anyways.
But this is one of the darker parts of the book. I mean, this is their whole plot right here, the team. This is what they came up with. They're going to trap David, and he's going to be stuck in Ratmorph. That's the plan.
Yeah, I mean, they pull this off without a hitch. She leads him down a certain pipe. She goes into like this box that seems like just a little chamber in the little pipe system where they hid the blue box pieces. And she's worried because she smells some fresh air, which I don't think would be much of a problem. I mean, there could be cracks in this pipe or whatnot. I don't know why that was a big deal, but
something about it seemed off, I think, is the message they wanted to imply. And there's even a little bit of tension where David kind of figures out, oh no, they're up to something.
Yeah, and she has to, in Ratmorph, like, grab him and, like, pull him back, and she tries to get out, and he grabs her tail, and she chews her own tail off.
Yeah, that part always
backwards.
Kind of haunted me. See, when I was a kid, and probably around the same time I was actually reading this book, I had rats for pets. So that kind of stuff was, like, really disturbing to me, because, you know, I'd be reading this in school, and then I'd go home and play with my little ratties and be like, oh, I don't want them to lose their tails.
But yeah, but that allows her to get out, and the little sliding mechanism comes down, and this is where we get the exposition by the rest of the Animorphs who are sitting around being human.
Yeah, so awesome. Such a great moment where they're just like, boom, we're triumphant. We are the Animorphs. We reign supreme.
It's so haunting, though, in the fact that they're explaining to David how this happened. Tobias is alive. This is how we tricked you. And the fact that they point to Cassie and be like, it was Cassie's idea. She was the only one who even kind of liked you and gave you a chance.
Which is great.
She came up with this.
Yeah, which is great because it was like the lesser of so many evils. Because nobody had to die here. I mean, he's going to live a horrible, horrible, horrible rat-like life, but he's not dying.
I think of all the Animorphs, you know, we talked recently in these last few books about how adult they are and how mature they are. I think this is their childhood coming back in. This is a really childish decision. Like, oh, we're not going to kill you because that's the worst thing can happen to you. We're just going to torture you the rest of your life. Like, this is a very... this is something like a kid would come up with, thinking it was a better idea. You know, just to save their own humanity, they take away his.
I don't know, man. It seems like, I mean, maybe Rachel could have killed him, but I think she would have lost a little more of her humanity if she had. I don't know. This is definitely, I think, one of the best outcomes. I think this could have been. I don't know. I like this outcome better than them just flat out killing him, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, you can't really give him any other morph because he can go running off and give all their secrets away. I think they could have done something. I mean, if you really thought it out and tried to be more humane, they could have done something where they kind of like Jake in The Capture, where they trap him as a Nothlet in his human body, and then like keep him in the woods with an axe or something. I don't know.
No, see, that'd have been just too much to handle, another unnecessary risk. The smartest thing they could do if they didn't want to kill him is trapping him in a useless morph and putting him somewhere where he can't contact humans.
You know what actually would have worked and been way more humane?
What, making him a fish?
No, trapping him in dog morph and giving him the chi in their underground base.
Oh! You know what? Oh my god. That makes a lot of sense. That is a really good idea, Coleman.
Honestly.
Holy crap. I would have never even thought of that.
I mean, trapping him in Dogmorph it just kind of makes sense to that. But he could have stayed there as human. He might have been more dangerous, though. So, yeah. Trap him in Dogmorph, Chi, underground base.
The problem is, trapping him in Dogmorph would have been much harder because the thing with Rat was that, part of it was trapping him in an enclosed space that he needed to be that small. I mean, if he was a dog, depending on the size, and even if you tried trapping him in, say, a carrier, he'd still be able to morph human in most cases, unless perhaps he was like a Chihuahua in one of those really, really, really tiny carriers.
As dark as they went in this book, I wish it would have gotten a little darker.
And had him morph out and, squeeze himself to death?
Mm-hmm. That would have been the ending that actually wrapped it up. But I think they wanted to leave it open to possibly bring David back.
Yeah, even though they have Rachel say, we never did see David again.
Oh, that's a good point.
She says it. She says not directly, though.
Yeah.
So, I love all of this. I love how... At the very end, they're all standing around, just they're intent on waiting out the 2 hours together, and Rachel tells everyone to leave. Her and Axe are staying behind because Axe will keep track of the time, while Rachel's just there to, I guess, be the one who's there.
I love what they say too. Is that after it's done, and they go and leave David on this little rock in the middle of the ocean where a bunch of other rats are running around. I love what Axe turns to Rachel and says. He's like, basically, I'd rather not talk about this ever again.
Oh my god, yeah, exactly. That was one of the best lines here, is where they're, here, I'll read it exactly. It says, we left him there, and we flew away. Rachel, Axe said, yeah, I think I will never want to speak of this again.
Coming from Axe, who's not emotional, who really talks about killing other beings a lot more than the rest of them, because he really thinks of himself as a warrior. The fact that this hits him and he just can barely handle talking about it, that really hit home the messages of the book.
Oh man, this book has so many good lines here, especially in the end. Here's another section from page 149. I closed my eyes and wish I could cover my ears to keep out the sounds, but it was Thoughtspeak I was hearing, and you can't block that out.
Yeah. And then at the very end, where it's talking about how every once in a while a boat would go near that island, and people thought it was haunted because they'd hear some kid screaming and pleading for his mom.
Yeah, exactly. This place is apparently haunted now because it's David.
David screaming in Thoughtspeak.
This is one of the more darker, more grown-up books. It's really no surprise that both of us are huge fans. We both love it. We're both going to give it probably some of the highest scores we could possibly award these books. But that's the end of the book. And I guess we should kind of try and review it.
Yeah, I'll go first if you don't mind.
No, go right ahead, my man.
Okay. Well, I mean, what's there to say? I mean, to review this book is to review the last two books as well. And altogether, they tell one of the most complete and character-driven stories, not that just we've had, but are in the entire series. It's why everybody loves this trilogy and talks about it all the time. Whenever Animorphs comes up, they talk about the David trilogy. So it's amazing, and it's really good, and it's got a strong start. It's got a kind of a normal Animorphs start with the first book. It's almost a normal Animorphs book, but then they really just went trying to complete the story and tell it as well as they could with the second and third books. So for this specific book, with wrapping up the conflict the way they did, for going as dark they did and not pulling any punches, I'm going to give this 10 out of 10 life-saving gymnastics.
I thought our ratings were out of 5. Yo.
Are they?
Yeah, man.
Oh my gosh, we have been out of the game way too long. 5 out of 5 life-saving gymnastics. Wow.
Yeah. Cool.
I would also give it a 10.
5 out of 5, huh? All right.
Yeah, straight 5 out of 5. 5 out of 5.
Yeah, I'm right there with ya. I had debated going back and forth between a 4 and a 5, and I'm really divided. There are things that we had talked about throughout this series, not just this book, but throughout the first two in the trilogy. Things that we had pointed out that maybe could have been done a little bit better, or maybe elaborated on a little bit more, or just things that we didn't think were necessary at all. overall, I think there might have been ways to do this trilogy better. Maybe giving a book to David from his perspective would have been excellent. This could have been a longer running story arc throughout the series. I mean, it didn't necessarily need to be a trilogy. But for what we got, man, I would say it's near perfect in terms of just everything we've come to expect from Animorphs at this point. You can tell just from listening to us talk about it that we both love this book a hell of a lot. And I want to try and be super critical about it, but I mean, the mission, the whole summit thing, I think was wrapped up a little hastily, but again, you say you love that, how they hastily wrapped it up. To me, it seemed a little bit more like we've got to wrap this plot line up a little bit quicker so we can get to all that good David stuff, which again could have been solved by maybe just giving it another book or two or something. But when all is said and done, man, I just can't think of how happy I was reading this book and how good of a time it was and not give it a 5 out of 5 Visertonies. So yeah, that's I mean, David Trilogy is just good stuff. If you're going to reread the Animorphs series, you'd best be including the David Trilogy. Next time on Thoughtspeak, it'll be book 23, The Pretender. Please get on iTunes, give us some good ratings and reviews. Thank you all for listening to our podcast and supporting us this whole time. We're really hoping that you all have a Merry Christmas and a Happy Holidays, whatever you celebrate, wherever you are. Tune in next time.